Kevin Chan from Joey Yap Consulting Group. Welcome to Nature of Reality Radio. Here we're going to be talking about Chinese metaphysics and related subjects on this, the last full day of winter on in the Gregorian calendar date of March 19th, 2021. And well, before I give you the chance to come on the show, just a quick disclaimer of sorts to listeners. Folks, I don't really want to make the show pay-per-view and all, but still nobody seems interested in subscribing to Patreon. You're all being patient with me and waiting to until like 2 or 3 weeks after the interview when I upload the shows to YouTube. So if you pay me on Patreon, you can listen to them right after I do them, and not have to wait 2 to 3 weeks. But nobody's paying me, and I don't want to make the show pay-per-view. So please consider a little Patreon subscriptions, folks. I know everybody's tight on money now in this crazy time, but just a little thing I wanted to point out. And of course, all my listeners, please try to listen to the shows on Cost.tv and not YouTube, because Cost.tv is blockchain monetization. The more people that watch on that, the more money I can make through blockchain. And the Cost.tv links will always be in the YouTube videos. First thing in the video, if it's not there, that only means it's because I haven't uploaded to Cost.tv in time yet. So if you have to listen on YouTube, fine. But if the link for the Cost.tv interview is there, please only listen on YouTube for 15 seconds to give me a view credit, and then switch to Cost.tv so I can monetize off these programs. And now, Kevin Chan, I'm glad you were able to speak. I reached out to get Joey Yap on, but I'm sure he's extremely busy, and it's great that he has people like you who can speak on his behalf and talk about the Chinese metaphysics related things. And I think this is something that's very, very significant, that's going to be very significant in the future of this world. I mean, people are saying that America's going to fall, the Roman Empire of the modern era that is America's going to fall, and the new superpower of China is going to take over. I believe that, but it's not what you think. It probably has more to do with the fact that the world is going to realize that Chinese metaphysics and the way that the Chinese do things from a scientific standpoint is the appropriate and the right way to do things. Western technology in almost every example has screwed up everything, and the Chinese had it right all along. And when they say that China will become the new superpower, it's not that China's not going to take over the world or anything. No, it's that the scientific and metaphysical beliefs and whatnot are going to be recognized on the world in the future, and that's going to lead to hopefully great things for humanity. So we'll get into that for sure, but first I want you to introduce yourself and what exactly, for those that aren't familiar with it, is the Joey Yap Chinese metaphysics stuff all about. There is a Joey Yap YouTube channel, Joey, and then the word Yap, spelled Y-A-P. Look for the check mark. 177,000 subscribers currently. Folks want to sign on to that. A lot of great videos there. I subscribe to it myself. So, Kevin, who are you? What's the Joey Yap group all about? And then we'll get into the really important knowledge behind it.
Hey guys, good morning, good afternoon, and also good evening for those of you who are listening from anywhere at any time zone at all. My name is Kevin Chan. So I'm part of the Joey Yap Consulting Group. I'm one of their consultants here, right? So I myself is one of their instructor. I'm also one of their public speaker, and more importantly, one of the fellow who actually does a lot of the consult that Joey does. And I've authored 2 books so far. The first book, Bazi Road to Success, is an entry-level book. You know, if you are really looking for a book to take a look at what is your own aptitude, your own characteristic, and I hope that you will find the easier way to basically get your life done by reading the book, right? So, and then the second book is Bazi Road to Parenthood. So, you know, I am a parent of 2. So I do use a lot of my Bazi skill set to understand how children, you know, work and create some environment for them that helps them to, you know, also discover their own talent and aptitude. Right? So, you know, I'm really happy that Andrew today has invited me up and to have a speak in the broad subject of Chinese metaphysics. And, you know, it is a, you know, very new perception that, you know, people are right now starting to look over to the east side, especially on the China side, on their development after so long, right? So, you know, so Andrew, come, let's get it kick off. And, you know, what are some of the questions that you have that we want to, you know, look into?
Well, yes, I guess since I mentioned it, I do believe that as the time goes on, more of the world is going to wake up to the fact that the best way of moving about your life, working with the flow of life and the elements of nature and such, is the way that the Chinese did it, and that Western technology and advanced Western civilization has, in almost every regard, screwed up everything in some way, shape, or form. So if you can perhaps expand on that, and maybe if you know anything about this, the history of what it is that the ancient Chinese people did and saw and heard, and whatever sense they used to come to the knowledge that they have, that people like you try to espouse.
Well, I think first of all, if we take a look at how the entire topic of metaphysics has basically involved, and especially talking about Chinese metaphysics, I think a lot of people may have seen the version that is basically always show out, which is the more mystical version there is. But in actual sense, right, on the basis side of it, Chinese metaphysics, and in all of them, if you are familiar, Feng Shui, maybe Qigong, maybe the what you call the face reading side of it, right? They are actually quite based on what we call observational science, right? So in the olden day, when they are more free, when there's less distraction, a person can actually spend a lot of time just observing single thing, and observing the star has been one of the things that the what we call the more enlightened, or or you want to just put it where their brain are more developed, they can recognize pattern. So after some time, if you always see the same star arrangement or the same star pattern that you can recognize appearing, you start to associate the appearance of that particular star with things that is happening. So I always tell people, like, if one day you observe this star constellation appearing in the sky, and you always see that the place is plagued with flood, if you look at it long enough mean that your entire lifetime, right, 60, 70 years, you take a look at that, and then the next time you see this star constellation appearing, and you happen to see that there's a town there, and you happen to go and tell the town that, hey, you know what, I think this place is gonna be flooding sometime soon, right? So, and it happened to flood, right? So to the town folk, you look magical, but to him it's like, it's just something that I've observed for so long, so that I seems to make a trajectory that things happen, right? So now the part whereby it disconnect a lot is that I always say Chinese love to keep secret, or I don't know, like they don't really believe in how the Western side does it. So just to give you all a bit of a things to look. When the Western side does a lot of things, is that they will teach you everything, and then they expect you to put something on top of it. That is basically generally how thesis is basically being written. You're supposed to study everything before that. Then after that, you're supposed to add something in, and then you finish your thesis, you get your doctorate. But in terms of Chinese, we always do it in a sneaky way, that we don't teach you everything. And hopefully before we die, we might be able to pass you that last piece of thing, So there is always doesn't have this adding new information into the path of it, right? So they believe that, you need to basically discover everything on your own, which after a while, it turns very mystical, because the mechanism behind it has not been explained by the guy before that. And, as they go down the path, as they go run down the rabbit hole, it become more and more mysterious. And for us, on the more what we call the modern side of it, because we are a lot of us are very, very science trained, so we did spend a lot of time rebuilding a lot of this observational, by doing a lot of, when we do a lot of consultation, we through re-verify everything, that why does the olden day people say this at that point in time, and when we translate it back to the newer generation, what do we observe, right? So I think the part that is really lacking in terms of Chinese side of the metaphysics, or Eastern side of understanding, is that we are still very bad at recording observation, right? So I think if we can improve on that, we might be on par. And over the decade, you can see that a lot of the Chinese side or the Eastern side has been very diligent in also recording a lot of the observation that they have. right? So I think that's my point of view when you talk about Eastern and Western. So I think both of us are trying to converge the knowledge, as in we want to understand what actually happened, and not just on the level of just because somebody at the olden days said something, we have to believe what they say, but it's our job to go and verify what they say.
Thank you very much. By the way, I don't know what it is on your end. It sounds like maybe your microphone. I better say something about this, or the listeners are going to complain and comment about it. Your microphone is like whatever it is, making you sound like you're underwater or something. I don't know if your microphone is jiggling or you have it too close to your mouth. You might want to adjust that so I'm not hearing the sound like I was hearing when you're talking. So it's not a nuisance throughout the rest of this program. Try to figure out what that may be and fix it. But
is it better right now?
yes, I don't hear that thing. Okay, so um, I guess first we'll talk about Feng Shui. And I have really gotten interested in Feng Shui. I've been utilizing it, and I've printed out the Feng Shui chart, the 9-star chart for this year, and I started doing that last year. And of course, every year it's different, which is something I'd really like to get into. And I think that may actually be the first question I'll ask you about Feng Shui. What is the whole idea behind the phenomenon regarding the 9-star grid? It's a square, nine squares within the square. They all have numbers, and they all have different directions on like directions on a compass. And the numbers change every single year. And the thing that I'm sure stands out in most people's mind is, okay, does that mean we're supposed to be shifting around the stuff in our house every single year? Or no, we're supposed to leave everything as it is and try to work with the energies differently every year? So let's try to make sense of this. The 9-star grid system, square thing, whatever you call it, involves 9 stars, even though there's really no stars, it's squares. How exactly does this work? Why does it change every year, and all the rest of it? You got the floor.
Awesome, Andrew. Right. So, now here's the thing. When we talk about feng shui, I'll go a bit on the bigger sense of it. Feng shui is basically the Chinese version of what the English world would call a geographical study, right? So, it's basically a landform study. What we are interested in is to take a look at the contour of the landform. And the part that differ a bit is that we are trying to determine the flow of what we call qi. So, which is, English was translated to things like energy flow, right? So, because now we acknowledge that we can't see qi, we can't taste it, we can't basically look at it. So, what we do is that we model this thing called qi by using water. Right, so by using water and wind, and basically hence where the feng shui come in. So if you take a look at the characteristic of water, is that it will always travel from a high ground to a low ground. That's the nature of water. If you take a look at nature of wind, is that it will always travel from a high density area to a lower density area, which means that the wind will travel from low ground to mountainside. That's what it does in nature. So by modeling against this, we assume that, if you can see how the water is basically flowing through the land contour of higher and lower ground, we can now start to guess that, okay, so this is how the qi basically is flowing. And once we know that, then we can put in the important part, really, which is to put a receptacle, a building, whatever it is that can basically contain the qi to trap the qi, and we utilize the qi or utilize the energy for our usage. So the nearest analogy I can tell you is basically is like your internet hub in your house, right? So the internet signal basically come to your house, and you want to capture the internet signal, which is a Wi-Fi signal or whatever it is, right? You need to put in a Wi-Fi hub. So where is the best place for you to place the Wi-Fi hub for you to get the best signal? Whatever 7 boxes or 8 boxes that you have in your signal strength. You want to put it at that particular place. That is what feng shui is trying to basically determine. And Andrew, the system that you are talking about, that's just one of the many, which is also a problem to us, is that of the many feng shui system that is out there. Right, so you are talking about a system which is called the Flying Star system, which is under the Xuan Kong. right? So again, big picture here, there is basically two very big school, or very big discipline or very big group of people who does feng shui. One concentrate more on landform. They talk about mountain and water and the flow of it, and the other school talk a lot about formulas. So there's the form school, there's a formula school, and Xuan Kong Fine Star is basically about the formula side of it. So they use calculation to basically determine the direction of the energy, and the basis of the calculation is basically your northern deeper, right? Your northern deeper. Why does the what you call the star that you take a look always change position? Is that the planetary alignment between the sun, the our planet Earth, and also the constellation that is out there is always in shift. So every single year when our planet, the sun, and then the constellation is in a different position, they start to mark that one particular position, and they will calculate where the rest of the energy is supposed to land. And hence, they believe that if you align yourself with that particular energy, which means that you need to basically take a look at it as it's like your handphone. You go all over the places to get the best signal. Right, so that's why you shift places, so you can't like standing on one place and expect the signal to be consistently good at that particular area. Right, so that's what we do in feng shui. So of course, the big study of it is to understand, what each energy signature does to you, and how can you fully utilize the energy signature to help you achieve the goals that you need to basically do, right? So that's the part of it that we are trying to study here, right? So on your question of whether it is fixed or whether it is movable, you need to imagine this like really, when you are driving from one place to another place, there's always a fixed component, which is the road. The road will never change. But here's the thing, the traffic condition on the road change though, right? The same road can be, heavy in traffic and can be light in traffic. And when you find out that, the road in front of you, between you and your direction is having a heavy traffic, what do? You basically change the route, don't you? So you just change to a different direction. So same thing here is that, when you take a look at that, so this particular year, the energy signature that I want is basically in this particular direction, So what do? You change and you tilt your particular direction towards that to benefit from that energy, which means that you change your route of travel so that, it's more convenient for you to reach your destination. But you don't actually change the road. So which is, there is a base setup for your house. We do a base setup, and then there is minor adjustment that we do every single year, whereby you don't tweak your entire house actually. So you do that minor tweaking to suits your objective. So that's why, in an actual consult, we actually spend a lot of time determining what is the actual result or what is the actual objective that you try to, achieve before we take a look at, where is that particular energy located, and, is this a long-term or short-term goal that we are looking at, right? So Andrew, I hope that helps in a bit of an understanding on the subject.
Yes, yes. And some items that are used in Feng Shui that I use myself. Um, Fountains that are of a waterfall nature, I hear are good for generating wealth and abundance. And crystal balls I would assume that the best place, if you're going to put a Feng Shui crystal ball to try to balance out everything in the property, you would naturally put it in the center so it can kind of radiate out in through an equilibrium. Or is that not necessarily the best place to put a crystal ball? Should you perhaps look at the flying star, not nine star, flying star system? So, what can you say about crystal balls and also fountains and waterfall fountains generating abundance?
Well, now here's the thing. Now, when we actually talk about, what you are spoken of is actually in a part what we usually term as activation, right? So now here's the thing. When we talk about energy activation here, what we need is actually a what we call a yang item or an active item. Right, so an active item means that the item is in a constant movement. So in actual sense, there's actually only two item that is actually active. If you're going to be able to use an item, one is basically water. So I think everybody would understand that, the molecule of the water is in a constant flux, is in a constant movement. So that's why it is basically active. And second is basically fire. And both of these are real elements. So, when you talk about putting an object over to the other side, like when you're talking about crystal, a crystal is not exactly an active element. So, that's why that doesn't work. And that goes by, a lot of people like to put figurine around, sometimes they, put the cats there, sometimes they put the toads around, sometimes they hang some, what you call painting around. Now, here's the thing, all these items are basically non-active items. So the only two active items that we basically use are water. And when we talk about water, we actually need quite a big amount of water, right? So it's go around about 5 gallons of water is basically required. So it's actually quite a lot of water for you to achieve that, active state, right? Fire, you don't actually need a lot of fire because fire is much more active than water. So that's why if you take a look at most religions and even most culture, they like to use fire because, fire is a very, very good active agent. But of course, if you're using fire, please be careful of setting fire to your house. Make sure that, it is basically supervised, it's dangerous using fire. So that's why most of the time you will see us recommend aquariums, because it is completely safe and water is basically in abundance. It's easy for you to prepare, and if anything goes wrong, you get a wet floor, so nothing much can basically go very wrong with using fire. But the entire thing right now is that you need an agent that is basically active, right? So it's not the item itself. The item itself actually doesn't really do anything. So we want to activate any places. Water is the part that we basically use a lot. It's cheap, it's safe, and it's easy to prepare, right? So that's what so just now you said crystal, the waterfall thingy, that's go not enough water inside, right? So you need a higher amount of water, and to achieve the flow of the water, which means that to keep the water flowing, today you just need to go and buy a very cheap aquarium pump and just throw it into the water tank, and that will achieve the water flowing already. You actually do not need any of those elaborated deco, the one with the spinning orbs, stuff like that. Those actually doesn't have enough water to do activation, right, Andrew?
Thank you, and it's very interesting you mentioned aquariums, because I actually got a pet goldfish today. I had it shipped on Amazon. Yes, you can buy live goldfish on Amazon. Interestingly, buying 3 fish would have cost less than buying 1 fish, and I only bought 1 fish, but I don't really need to overdo it. But one of those 1-gallon fish tanks, definitely want to use that instead of a fish bowl. Fish bowls are not good for fish by any means. And would I be correct in assuming that a goldfish would probably be the best possible pet anyone could have for Feng Shui purposes? It seems to resonate because the goldfish are from that part of the world, East Asia, and it seems that you always think of Zen music. A lot of Zen videos have goldfish in them. So, they're certainly less expensive than cats and dogs. Dogs certainly probably wouldn't make good pets in China because they eat dogs in China, but that's another story. Goldfish, are they like a great pet? Do a lot of people in China have them as pets as well? And would you recommend it for Feng Shui?
Well, back to the activation, right? So now, in the olden day, when you don't have pumps, so you don't have electrical pumps in the olden day, how do you basically make the water, constantly move around? So building a fountain or a waterfall is also not a viable thing in the olden day without a pump. So putting fish inside would be a good thing, and the fish also help eat mosquitoes. So those are things that they basically. But in actual sense, today you don't actually need any fish at all. So again, right, the better way of getting things done is actually just to dump a submergible pump into your whatever tank it is, and then just keep it moving. And I would recommend that you put in a filtration system, because the water does get dirty after a while, right? So the goldfish is optional. If you like goldfish, just put it in, and Interesting part for you to take a look at, though, goldfish is actually pretty much a new invention. Have you ever seen goldfish in the wild before? If I were to ask you, where do I catch goldfish in the wild? Right, so
Not really. They're not common.
yeah,
No.
not that they are not common. They are actually bred by us. You don't get pure the type of goldfish that you see that you buy. You don't actually get it in the wild. They are actually something that you put it right. I don't know when could you use the word engineer or invent as pets. Right, so it's like tiny dogs. So those are what we breed out. In nature, if you put this sort of tiny dog out there, the fellow will get killed. Same thing with the goldfish. You can see that the goldfish got like zero defense system against nature, right? So you put it out there, it's like it's gonna die. Pretty simple, right there. So that's why when we talk about is goldfish is required in the olden day. You can't even find goldfish. Right? So it's not that. It's not even invented yet in the olden day. Right. Hopefully that helps a bit.
Yeah, it does. It does. Thank you. And another Feng Shui thing I'd like to discuss that I actually have to violate to some degree. Bathroom Feng Shui. I hear that you're supposed to keep the toilet seat down and the seat cover down when it's not in use. And I also read in Feng Shui you're supposed to keep your bathroom doors closed at all times. I, however, cannot do that because I live in a one-bedroom, basically a three-room, one-floor apartment in my parents' garage. It's a garage apartment. Living room, kitchen, bedroom is all one big room, and then there's the bathroom, and the bathroom connects to that big room and also the laundry room, which connects to the garage. And it is in the laundry room that I put my air dehumidifier. I have to have one because there's so many trees around the property. There's so much water. It's got to have a dehumidifier, and in order for that dehumidifier to get everything in the house, I need to keep the door to the bathroom, both doors to the bathroom open because the bathroom connects to all the rooms in the house. So I have to violate that. Keep the bathroom door closed in Feng Shui for that reason. But what is it about that? Why is it? Why do they say always keep bathrooms door closed? And why is it about keeping toilet seats and seat covers down when toilets are not in use? Interesting thing there. What's that about?
Well, I think this one, come about over the entire over fearing of the toilet because I just go modern and then go back to the ancient side a bit so that you have a perspective for what actually happened right now. So modern toilet system, when you do flushing, right, it's like it's pulling all the water out of wherever the place is that you're having. Right, so they associate that with pulling all your wealth or pulling all your fortune, abundance out of your house. Here's the thing: if it was so easy, that would be great. But that's not the case. Now, in Feng Shui application, it is actually very important. The first thing that you need to understand first: only space that you are using for a prolonged period of time, which means that you are there for very long time, would have a Feng Shui effect. So if you take a look at the toilet, how much time do you spend in the toilet the entire day anyway? Including taking bath and doing your big business and whatever it is. I think about 30 minutes max for the entire day. Right, actually the toilet is a non-significant area in your house. You don't really need to bother about it in terms of Feng Shui. Right, so why is there so many negative things talking about the toilet? Here's the thing. How is the toilet in the olden day? The olden day toilet, right? So it is completely filthy. It's unhygienic, right? So it's right in the outside, where there is a last time there's actually a job for a guy who actually come and collect all the faces that is people discharge. That place is like very, very dirty, very, very filthy. Do you want all the bacteria to actually basically spread, and then you bring that particular image of the toilet into your house, which is not how toilet is. So now, if you're telling me your toilet is often not clean, you are not a very hygienic person, and then you are not basically taking care of the hygiene of the toilet, then my advice for you is yes, because when you do a flushing of the toilet, the churn of the water inside will spread whatever bacteria that has been collecting around your toilet, all around the places. And if your door is not closed, it's not confined, all the bacteria is going to go all over your house. Do you like that? Right. So I think the entire part of it, to keep the toilet cover down and to keep the door closed, is like more of a hygiene advice than actual feng shui advice. In terms of feng shui, we actually don't really care about the toilet unless you tell me that the toilet is the place whereby you spend like maybe 4 to 5 hours a day inside there. Then probably I will have a bit of a concern of what are the energy signature in the toilet, but definitely not the toilet bowl or whether you close or you don't close your toilet's door. Hygiene is more the issue rather than it's a feng shui connotation, right? So Andrew, back to you again.
Thank you. And now some animals regarding Feng Shui. When I had Donna Stellworth on my show recently, she pointed out that the coin frogs with the coin toads in Feng Shui, a frog toad, whatever it is, with the coin in its mouth, she pointed out that that's actually supposed to be facing your front door. So I, during the show, I have a cordless headset, so I could do this during the show. I moved the frog that I had on my bedroom mirror onto the bookshelf so the frog could be facing the front door. And, well, hopefully that will enhance its qualities a little bit more. Maybe you could get into that. And also another thing, I was debating about whether the Feng Shui dragon, it was in my best interest to get because I am a tiger in the Chinese zodiac, fire tiger, born in 1986. And I read somewhere that tiger signs may not resonate very well with those Feng Shui dragons. But then when I read another article saying that the dragon's Western astrology equivalent is the Aries, the ram, and I am an Aries. April 7th is my birthday. I decided, okay, that's all I need to feel comfortable to get the dragon figurine and put it in the south section of my house, and hopefully get the best out of it. And I figured the fact that Aries and dragons are the equivalent of sorts would help me cancel out the negativity that dragons may cause tigers. So maybe you could expand on that, this idea of dragon figurines being better for some signs than others, and if they are good for you, they can help you. What do they do to generate wealth and abundance, as it says? And also the coin frogs or toads with the coins in their mouth. How do they work, and why do they have to face the front door?
There's actually quite a lot of questions inside that particular question. Right, so let's start with first thing first. First general thing you need to know that there is actually no dragon, there's actually no tiger, there's actually no goat, no ram. All these animal actually doesn't exist, right? So now here's the thing. The actual like when you talk about dragon, for us who basically study the particular subject, the dragon is actually written as Qian. It's a Chen, so it has nothing to do with dragon. The word itself, the 12 animal branches, has no animal connotation inside at all. So now what happened here is that all those specific term that is used, like when you talk about the dragon is basically the Chen. So and then when you talk about the goat is basically Wei, right? So that's the official term. Now here's the thing, these official terms are not used by commoner. Those are basically what we call palace term. They are high grade, bigger term, probably the term that Shakespeare would use, but the normal commoner would not use. Here's the thing, if you go out at that point in time, if you go out and you utter this sort of word out in the public, they would know that you are from the palace, right? They straight away know that you're from the palace. And well, unfortunate thing is that in the olden day, when one empire attacked another empire, who's the first guy who basically know to run? It would be the court astrologer, the guy who actually observed the star a lot, and he basically said, oh, this star constellation, last time I saw it, right, that empire falls. So now I see the star constellation is right above my head. Damn, I better, pack up and basically run. So if these people ever gone out of the palace and, and their empire basically falls, They would also be the first people that is getting hunted down by the new empire because of the knowledge that they basically have. So they are quite afraid of it. So when you go out there, you need to start masking. But here's the thing: that is the only skill set that they have in their lifetime, which is doing astrology or whatever the Chinese metaphysics that we call it. So when they go outside, when they want to mask this skill set, and they have to replace all this palace work with something that the commoner can understand, and they happen to pick farm animal to basically start talking to you about it, so that they don't get suspicious about it. That's where all the animal basically come in. So if you understand that, the first of all, you actually got nothing to do with the animal. So again, all these are basically planetary direction. Okay, so it's all planetary direction. So when we talk about, just now when we talk about things like clashes, whether the, whether the, whichever animal basically is clashing with whichever animal, like the ox and the ram, or want to call it the goat, or want to call it the whatever it is, that is basically clashing right now. We are talking about two planetary positions that is basically opposite of each other. When we talk about clashing, they are actually two planetary systems opposite of each other, whereby one planetary system is exerting a big energy, so the opposite planetary system is exerting a very low energy. So if you're having the low energy position and you are facing the high energy position, it is actually not good for you. That is basically just what clashing actually means. So you can actually do off with all this figurine thingy, if you like it, just buy and put it there. It doesn't actually do anything. Right, so back to the earlier question talk about. The first thing is that is the item actually an active item? So any figurine that you can put it down on anywhere is basically not an active item. And second thing, it is not even elementally correct to put it in the first place, right? So just now you talk about the it's actually a three-legged toad, by the way, right? So they are supposedly used to basically suck in chi. So that's what they do, right? They're supposedly used to basically suck in chi. So that's why they ask you to basically face the door to suck in the chi. So again, if you want chi flow to come into your house in a better manner, just make sure that the front door and whatever the inside your door, they are clear. The paths are clear. That's all you need to make sure, for a good chi flow to basically come in. Make sure that there's no blockages in front, please. And then, there's no blockages right in front of your door. And, that basically would help. You actually doesn't need all these figurine. The figurine, in an actual sense, I can straight away tell you that it doesn't work. Because if you work so nice, right, the company or the manufacturing company that basically manufacture it, how many thousand do they have? Right, they should just put it in front of their door, and that's it. They don't need to do business anymore, right? So just manufacture as much as possible, and just put it in front of their door, and why should they sell it to you, right? So you need to basically do a lot of this, taking a look at the particular situation, and before you interact with. But it's convenient to tell people that all right, so you just put a toad there. It gives a person some action to perform, so they feel nice that they perform some action, and then there's actually no actual correlation between putting anything in front of them. It's not even active, right? So if you talk about it, I'd rather you just put a big aquarium in front of your door. That basically would help more, because that is an active agent. So it will help, whatever energy in front of your door will get, excited and get activated and get spread around the house. So of course, qualifying things that, the area, the energy must be the energy that you want to spread. If you're spreading the wrong energy, then you'll be getting the wrong effect of the entire house. Right, Andrew?
Righto. And well, let's move on to something else besides Feng Shui. I want to get into the Chinese calendar and how it works. And I discovered a very interesting thing about my birth date, April 7th, 1986. The Chinese calendar equivalent date happens to be February 29th, 1986, the lunar date. But 1986 was not a leap year. There was no February 29th in 1986. So perhaps you can help me make sense of this. And Well, first let's make sense of this, then we'll get into some other aspects of the calendar. When you're typing in like your Gregorian birth date, the Gregorian calendar is a poorly made solar calendar. We should be using the Chinese calendar, which incorporates lunar aspects. And if you enter your solar Gregorian date, there's going to be a different date for the Chinese lunar date. And I'm really stumped with my date of February 29th, 1986, because there was no February 29th leap year day in 1986. So what happened there?
All right, so now this is actually one of the more favorite topic when it comes to practicing this is that right. So we are running on too many calendar system. No, first of all, just understand even in the Chinese system there are two significant calendar system that is running. One is what you describe it as the lunar calendar. Now the lunar calendar is central around as the name suggests the movement of the moon around the planet Earth. So they are basically using that particular calendar to track the moon mobility around the planet Earth. So and then we got the solar calendar, which as the name suggests, is actually tracking the movement of the planet Earth around the sun. So if you start to know this, right? So I think the first you want to call it the scientific or logical conclusion is that both of these calendar are different calendar system. You're not supposed to put them together. You're not supposed to overlap them together. They have different function, right? So the moon calendar system definitely is not a stable system, due to the movement of the moon, right? So that one is actually used for farming. It is used very, very extensively to basically find out about the four season, and that basically tells them when should they basically do that, right? So even in Chinese, if you talk about it, that calendar system is called Nongli, which is a farmer's calendar. I think in the English side, you have a farmer's almanac as well. It's basically a calendar system that tell the farmer when to do what, is whatever things like that, do that. That is one calendar system. And the more stable system is actually the solar system, which is what Chinese practitioner would do. And that is actually the system that is used for most of the what we call cultural significant type of prayer that they do now. So again, everything basically go back to identification of the constellation system on the space. They just want to mark at that point in time where is this constellation is basically staying. So they did all the observation in the olden days that or if this is the date. This particular constellation that you're looking at is at this particular direction, or these are the particular place that you need to basically look for them, right? So that's what they do. And then you're going to overlap this Gregorian English calendar system, which has zero significance to the calculation or everything. So why is the Gregorian calendar system came in is because of familiarity, right? So because the Gregorian calendar system is basically quite popular. Everybody uses it, so in actual sense, when we do it, when we do all the time, actually we don't really care too much about the Gregorian calendar system. We want to know, we take a look at the birth date. What we want to know is basically at the point where you are birth, when you came to the world, when you incept over to this particular world, what are the constellation system that is basically active for you at that point in time. So we need to do some what we call a calculation to basically find back that particular point in time, and that's what we do. So the nearest way for us to do it is to use the Gregorian system and go and do the calculation and basically change it back to the date, right? So that's what we do. So all of it is really resting on the solar calendar, right? But how you translate back to the solar calendar, that one we need to check back on the actual formula that's being used, because some people use different formula. So that's the part of it that's basically confusing, right? So and that require a little bit of on your side, whichever plotter or whichever formula, whichever software that you use, that you are what you call a familiar with, or you are more happy with, use that particular things, right? So what we want to do is to convert everything back to the solar representation. So in Chinese, the solar representation, we don't use number, we use what we call a 60 pillar system. right? So in English, you got your 12 month, but in Chinese, everything runs in 60. It doesn't really run in the normal numbering system that we have, right? Yes, Andrew. I hope that helps a little bit in
Well,
reaffirming.
yes, yeah. Well, you say it runs in 60. It's interesting. 60 years old is when you have your return to your um, element and animal sign in the Chinese calendar. Those who are metal oxes this year were metal born in the year of the metal ox 60 years ago, and they wouldn't see another metal ox year until this year, 60 years later. Does that tie in any way with the thing you just said about 60 being in Chinese so popular?
Well, now here's the thing, right? The 60 pillar is actually marking the position of the Jupiter. That's where the marking position is. So I think the Jupiter take around 59.7 years to make a complete circle around Sun. So the 60 pillar are basically telling you, in relation to the planet Earth and the Jupiter, there is 60 different combination that we can basically find, and we use that as a marker because Jupiter is the largest planet that in our solar system, and on a clear sky. That happened to be one of the star, if you want to call it, that can be observed from the planet quite easily. Of course, in the olden day, because light pollution is very low in the olden day, and the people there doesn't really have a lot of distraction, so it's easier for them to remember star system. But today, if you want to take a look at it, you can't see it anymore, right? So that's what we are basically marking, right? So 60 years, that's where the coincidence is, So in the olden day, really, our forefather has actually spent a lot of time, gazing the star and make a lot of observations. So again, the problem is that those people are not very good at, I don't know what you want to call it, not very good at keeping record, or they are not very good at passing on record to the next generation due to whatever problem that they have at that point in time, right? So, but that's the thing that we are facing with. So yeah, the 60 pillar system is basically based on the position of the Jupiter against planet Earth in relation to the Sun.
Okay, thank you for pointing that out. I want to go back to Feng Shui for a moment. Something I forgot to ask about.
Sure.
Gold ingots
Mm-hmm.
and where you want to put them. I just bought a pack of 12 gold ingots off Amazon. It was the best deal. And rather than obsessing about where to put them, I just decided, how about I just space them out all evenly around the house? And I'm sure that can't go wrong. Although I seem to recall reading a few things saying that you can actually amplify chi energy using feng shui by doing certain artistic things like oranges. Read somewhere that oranges, the Chinese actually see that as a fruit that can generate wealth and abundance. And if you put oranges and ingots in abundance together in the same fruit basket, then it's going to be like maybe exponentially more powerful than just putting one ingot in that basket of oranges. So, do you know anything about that? And how should you manage putting your ingots around your property? Any general advice there?
Uh, well, unfortunately, really, that gold ingot. I think first of all, the question is that is the gold ingot even made out of metal? That would be the first question. If you go and buy those stuff that is basically plastic, it's not going to work, right? So now here's the thing, before you put anything, or you try to put anything at all, first of all, back to the same thing is that first it need to be a real element, which means that earth need to be real earth, metal need to be real metal, fire need to be real fire, water need to be real water, wood need to be real live wood, right? So there need to be actual real element. Second thing is that only active element is basically useful in activation. Non-active element, usually we use it for suppression purpose. So you want to do suppression, we use non-active element, stable element to do that, right? So now gold ingot, does it actually work? There's actually nothing in Feng Shui that talk about using any sort of either gold ingot or whatever it is. It doesn't really do anything at all, as in, you know, your oranges. Oranges is because, you know, they are, you know, they're trying to catch on to the catchword. Usually when we talk about oranges, we are not talking about the English orange, all right? So it's basically the Mandarin orange, which has the name of gum. We call it gum. Okay, right? So gum is basically, you know, is the same connotation or the same pronunciation as gold, right? So they're just basically using that as a catchphrase to, you know, use that one. So in actual sense, I might tell you that whether you put, you don't put, it doesn't actually make any difference at all. But if you like to help out the local Mandarin orange planter and buy some Mandarin orange for them, you know, feel free to do so. You know, it actually is helping the economy to, you know, move around. Highly encourages you to do that, but you were expecting the oranges to do anything, you know. So again, if the oranges does work so well, the orange planter would be keeping all the oranges for himself, right, rather than selling it to you, right? So that's the logical side of it, right? So guys, you know, don't need to really put a lot of things. If you want to put anything at all, water is the only thing that I would tell you is cheap, readily available, easily handled, very little you know, what we call side effect on it. Even if you spill it, if it breaks, you know, anything, you know, you just get wet floor, you know. Please stick to water. That would be the easiest thing for you to use, you know, and it's, you know, you don't need to break your bank account. Water is next to free, right, Andrew?
Thank you. By the way, I hear birds chirping in the background. It gives it a nice nature feel there. So you don't have to shut them up. You can let them keep chirping while you're talking. So anyhow, about what else did I want to ask you? There's something on the tip of my tongue that I wanted to ask you about Feng Shui. Oh yes, Bagua mirrors. I read about them and where you should put them. They said make sure you put them on the outside of your property. I had to improvise a bit because the Bagua mirror set that I got said put this Bagua mirror. I don't remember if it was the convex or the concave, whichever one it was. Said put this one on your front door, as I did, and then put the other one on your back door. I don't have a back door though, but I did remember reading somewhere else that in another source that the bathroom area is a great place to put the Bagua mirror. So I reasoned that the Bagua mirror that I should put it in my back door, I might as well put that one in the outside the bathroom window. So Bagua mirrors, are you a proponent of them? How do they work? What's the deal with them?
When you're talking about the Bagua mirror, I think that one is more on the Taoism side of the world rather than the Feng Shui side of the world, right? So, you know, in Bagua application in the Feng Shui is basically just a directional system that we use to basically mark direction. You know, so, you know, north, south, east, west. You know, we basically use the Bagua, and by the way, there are two versions of the Bagua that is very common in practicing, which is the early heaven Bagua. That's one version of it, and then there is the later heaven Bagua. That's another version of it. Whether it is mirrored or not mirrored, Feng Shui practitioner actually doesn't really care. And number two, I can tell you that Qi also doesn't really care about your Bagua mirror at all. So, you know, the mirror basically doesn't really does anything to Qi at all. It doesn't pull in the Qi, it doesn't pull out the Qi, you know, it doesn't do anything to the Qi at all, right? So, and, you know, a Bagua, if you want to just put it in a way, it is basically a formula plate for us, you know, because, you know, we don't want to remember too many things. So you usually, if we take a look at it, the law pan, right? So the compass that we basically use, the huge, I think you have seen it before, right? The law pan with the ring that, you know, we can turn around. That is actually a very rudimental old formula sheet. So we have all the formula that's required put into rings and then put on top of a compass at the center. So when we point it at any particular direction, that particular red line that you see that, you know, is crossed across, that basically tells you that all this formula that lands on the red line right now is applicable to the position that you are pointing at right now. So here's is it, what formula do you want to use right now? So that is basically what we do when we talk about, using that particular thing. So it has really zero to do with whether you have a concave bagua or whichever bagua that is basically using. So again, whether you put it does not really do any effect in terms of the what you call Feng Shui side of it. But in the Taoism side of it, you might want to just get somebody who is basically in the Taoism side to talk about the significance of them applying Bagua in their particular study. Right, Andrew?
Thank you. And another thing, I'm not sure if this is necessarily a Feng Shui thing. Feng Shui you would think has to do with more inside the property, but I heard somewhere that the Chinese sculptures, buildings, temples, and such, the reason their roofs are shaped the way they are is because the Chinese followed a belief that roofs that are shaped like that would keep the spirits off the buildings, the evil spirits off the buildings. Is there any truth to that?
Now, so again, right, evil spirit is also not something that basically Feng Shui deal with, right? So that's basically more Taoism side. But now, here's the part of it. I don't know whether it's going to be a revelation to most people or what. Temple, places of spiritual. These places actually attract the most amount of spiritual to come over to you. So their job is actually not to ward off spirit. When you put a temple at a certain place, you are actually, it's like lighting up a beacon to all the spirit in that particular area that, hey, if you need help, come over here. That's what a temple is actually for. A temple is actually not to ward off spirit. It is actually to attract spirits to come over so that, they can seek help. It's like you opening a soup kitchen. Right, so why do you open a soup kitchen in any places? You're trying to attract all those people who need a warm meal, a place to stay, to basically come over. You're not opening a soup kitchen to chase people off. That's not what you do. It's like you open a soup kitchen so that those people who need help come to you and get helps. Same thing, you open up a temple. It's not because you want to chase spirit away. That's not the job. You want the spirit to basically come over to a place whereby you can settle them. Right, so that's why if you are looking at going at temple to run away from spirit, no, you're actually going to the concentration point of the spirit place. Right? So I would highly advise you not to go near temple if you are sensitive to this sort of stuff. If you're not sensitive, then it's fine for you to basically go to temple.
Thank you.
Yes, Andrew.
Yes, a couple of things that people have used to try to amplify the energy and the chi energy in their vicinity. Silver. I have bought a lot of silver, not just 99.9% of silver coins as a store of wealth, but sterling silver jewelry of many types, and put it all over my property in order to help energy flow. Got my Skype recorder going. So, all right, great. um,
Yeah, silver.
All right, okay, so well, it says Skype recorder's going, but I don't see the actual Skype thing. So, but that's all right. At least I know it's going, and if it does disconnect, I'll just have to call you again. So, regarding that, using silver as a way to generate chi energy and improve your feng shui in your property. Do you have anything to say about that?
In actual sense, when we talk about silver, so those are what we call actual elements. Those are what we call actual elements. So silver, gold, copper, metal, iron. Iron will be the cheapest of all of them. When you talk about using silver, right? So the question right now is that do you have even enough of an amount to make a significant use of it, right? So we use metal again. What we call more on the yin side, which is a stable energy to do suppression. So back to the flying star. There is this everybody fear of the doomsday element energy, which is called the 5 yellow, right? So if you're familiar with it, right? So that is an Earth signature energy that is very, very volatile. It causes a person to be very temperamental. It causes the person to make decision in a very rash manner. So we use metal to basically suppress the energy, because Earth produces metal. So if we induce metal into the area, the metal would basically start to make the Earth energy become less active. So that is actually the what you call the application of metal, if we are basically using the metal for anything else at all. But of course, the worry right now is that, do you even have enough of it? Right, so sometimes if you take a look at how things are applied, so a lot of people, I think you've heard of how people say that, oh, this place, you should hang a wind chime, right? So now that's the thing. Normally the wind chime is basically made out of metal, but the problem is that the wind chime that you hang are basically tiny wind chime. It doesn't really work. So if you take a look at temple, how big places they basically do, it's not actually a wind chime. That big bell that they use to basically mark time, the one that go dung, dung, right? And that is the size of the metal that they use, not tiny little wind chime that we put in our house, right? So you can see that, when we talk about application of a lot of things, right, there is the whether the item that you use is basically in the correct elemental configuration to be used. Second thing is that whether it is significant enough for it to actually give an effect, right? So those are things that need to be considered when you are applying. So again, back to why is water is the best choice, is because you can put quite a large amount of water and handle it in a very efficient and also low cost manner to basically use it as an activator, right? So if you want to use silver, unless you got a lot of silver, so again, 2 silver coin is not going to cut it, right? So it's just too little.
Thank you. And another thing regarding enhancing the energies of an area, and the Chinese are certainly familiar with this. Smoking tobacco, very, very popular in China. Like 66% of Chinese men are smokers, and very few women, though. It's kind of the opposite of in America, where teenage girls, their smoking is on the rise, but everybody else, it's going down. And it's kind of maybe a good thing that that the Chinese do that, because tobacco smoke, I've done a little research on this. Apparently, all this stuff about demonizing secondhand smoke and how it's harmful for you and all, that's all a lie to, among other things, suppress the fact that tobacco smoke, for all intents and purposes, is just as good as incense at as using at clearing out negativity out of some areas. So when people are smoking a lot, that's actually good, even though it may not smell so nice. It's clearing out the negativity, because tobacco smoke is very pure, and even though eating could kill you, the smoke is completely different. It's like got a spiritual essence to it. And I myself was smoking some apacho during the show, and I have another pipe here. Maybe I'll smoke it a little later during the show. But it also is to help communicate like really far out things like Chinese metaphysics. People that are of a lower consciousness level would more easily understand me if I'm smoking tobacco when I'm talking. That's Akasha Records reader Andrew Bartzis who says that. I have no reason to think he's making that up. So this idea that smoking tobacco is like incense. Tobacco smoke is like incense, and also using incense and other burning things in as a Feng Shui enhancer. Do you have anything to say about that stuff?
I think first of all, right, so now in actual sense, whether there is any linkage between tobacco and whatever Chinese metaphysics is, I have absolutely no idea on that, right? So I actually doesn't know what is basically that is, right? So but here's the thing, right? Now incense in a way, right? So now temple like to light fire, So, temple like to burn stuff, so you guys know, and actually in a lot of culture, burning stuff is what we do the best, right? So the fire itself is an activator, but as far as I know, incense, the actual usage of why people light incense is a timer, right? So incense actually come in different flavors for timing purpose. So you light an incense, for your meditative purpose because you want to know timing. If you're doing going to do let's say a 5-minute timing, so you light a 5-minute incense. You want to do a 30-minute prayer, so you light a 30-minute incense. So different size actually give you timing, right? Because in the olden day you don't have clocks. So what they do is that, they discover that, if I do this slow burning thingy, which is called incense on a certain length, and then, I take a look at it, I can actually use that to record time. That's basically the most rudimental time recorder in the olden days. So that's why they burn incense to basically mark passing of time. And, you can do your meditation or whatever it is that, you want to do. That's what basically incense is, right? So, but in terms of temple wise, what they want is actual thing is to actually light fire. Fire is a very strong, fast activator. So now the difference, some people may ask, what's the difference between using water and fire? Now, water is slower, more stable, and it actually gives you a longer effect. Fire is faster, but the effect loss is also much more faster. Right, so that's the difference. If you want to know that, you use which one. But if you are a practitioner who know what you are doing, right? So whether water and fire doesn't actually make any difference because you just want that energy point to activate, and you go and perform the actual task that is required to be performed, and the energy will assist you in making the task much more easier, right?
Yes, yes. And damn, I lost my train of thought already when I was going to ask you about. But okay. Uh, this idea of being able to use Chinese metaphysics in its native land, I'd like to ask you to maybe explain how things are in your part of the world. Shift gears here for a moment from the metaphysics and actually to see how it's applied in real world practice. I remember a political cartoon many years ago that I saw that I remember well, which showed a what appeared to be a monk. I don't know if it was a Buddhist monk or a Christian monk, trying to do a ritual, and he's got a Chinese policeman pointing a gun at him, and there's a picture of Mao Zedong in the background, and the Chinese police officer says, "Well, of course we have freedom of religion in China. You are free to worship Mao Zedong or go to prison." Now, if that's the way that the communist Chinese government handles freedom of religion, then I cannot imagine that talking about Chinese metaphysics is going to get you very far in China. Or am I mistaken? Is it actually tolerated to some degree? Talking about metaphysics, if the state controls everything, but can the I mean, if you don't know about this, because apparently you're either from Malaysia or Singapore. That's what the Joey Yap YouTube channel and also the other things say, that Malaysia and Singapore are not from China, but people still in China, it would be a shame if they can't hear about their own their own metaphysical science because their government is so tyrannical and oppressive. So, do you know the truth about how it is? Is it really that bad in China regarding freedom of religion?
First of all, I think you pointed out right, and I'm actually from Malaysia, so now I'm not affected by what is basically happening in China. No, now here's the movement last time in China is that they want to clamp down on superstition. They want to basically force the people to go into modernization. So I think if I'm not wrong, you can basically research on it. There are 5 particular items which they call the 5 O, the Wu Lao. So 5 sort of old thinking that they are trying to basically do off with, and one of it is basically superstition, and a lot of religions or Taoism sect is basically classified under superstition, right? So that's the part of it that basically is a bit edgy. And today it is still the same, right? So it is just not something that is, very what we call open up with. They're still having the same attitude with it. So as long as the way that China work is that there are certain line that you shall not cross. If you cross that particular certain line, I don't care who you are. We will basically take action against it. It's a very Chinese authoritarian way of basically getting things done. But it is true. It is still very edgy in China. So that's why if you take a look at it, there's actually more Chinese metaphysics practitioner in Hong Kong and in Taiwan than in actual China. Right, so because when Mr. Mao decided to clamp down on all this what we call superstitious practice, all these practitioners basically run away from China, escape from China, and end up a lot of them end up in Taiwan and also Hong Kong. So you actually have a lot of esteemed practitioners in Taiwan and Hong Kong. So if you are actually looking for practitioner, that are the places whereby they are most concentrated on. And that's where that they are, basically making a living at this current moment, right? So
Right.
hopefully that helps.
Yeah, okay. And I do have some metaphysical things I want to talk about. Before I do, though, getting back to the geography aspect of it, I had a guest on who from India who actually had a bold thing to say about Singapore soon becoming the next New York City of the world. And we got into that, and it's interesting how Singapore seems to be popping up in my life in so many unique ways. I had Jim Rogers on as economics expert. He's from Singapore, and I'm hearing it so much in all these economics videos I'm watching, and I even had some crystal stuff go on with it. 3 moonstones that I got, they all came from China. They all went through Singapore on my way to me. I mean, I bought one during the beginning of the virus pandemic, and then they said we don't think it's gonna make it after it didn't show up when it was long after it was supposed to. So they said we're gonna send you a replacement one. I mean, I got the replacement one, and then a few days after I got the replacement one, I got another moonstone with it said it was from China, shipped through Singapore, and I realized, oh, this must have been the one that they thought was lost. But then a few days after that, I got a third moonstone from China that went through Singapore that I never ordered, but I was wondering what could this be, and it was a moonstone. So I got 3 moonstones when I only bought one, and they all went from China and through Singapore. So I figure I might as well ask about it because that's I think where the Joey Yap thing is headquartered in Singapore. Seems like Singapore will be the global headquarters of everything if it's going to be the next New York City of the world, as that guy said it might be. So, do you have any idea what he's talking about, and is there possibly some truth to that?
Well, let's take a look at it from a few different perspectives. First perspective is that in a Feng Shui, there is this 20-year period thingy that's happening. So now we are actually shifting into what we call a period 9. So it's okay with the numbering system. Just think of it as a period that we are shifting into new period, which is period 9. That particular period is very associated with the direction of south, right? So now, here's where the part of it is a bit edgy right now, that south from where, right? So wherever that you are standing right now is a different south from whatever I'm standing right now, right? So in period 9, the main bulk of the energy is generated from the south, which is the south direction coming in. So of course, for us typically who is in the Asia right now, Singapore is basically part of the south for a lot of people. Other than that, it would be New Zealand and Australia, which is quite far away. So that's why there's a lot of conclusion talking about Singapore being ahead, Singapore being the place that is basically gonna boom and things like that. Now, personal opinion here is that the Singapore have enough space for people to stand. If you were to boom Singapore, right? Where are you gonna stand? Right, so now New York is part of is a part of a city in a big country. So if New York is full already, you can still go out. But Singapore, if there's too many people standing in Singapore, so where are they going to go? they can't just cross over to Malaysia. That doesn't really work, right? So I think that is a bit of a thing that they might need to take a look at, in terms of what are the level of boom that they are taking on. Because if you really study on economy, whether the economy grow or doesn't grow, it has a lot to do with population consumption. Because if your population has already reached a saturation state whereby people can't continue to consume, your GDP can't go up, you can't grow. So that's why Singapore has been doing a lot of things in terms of importing people into the country. They try to make the population still grow, because the general population in Singapore is refusing to have children, or too fear to have children, or can't take the entire pressure of having children, or they know that having children is a very difficult thing. So a lot of them stop having children. So if you stop having children, population stop growing, and the next thing that you can do to spur up the population growth is to import people from outside. I think those are some of the stuff that we need to take a look at. But definitely, if you take a look at the entire direction right now, is South is going to be a area that is interesting for a lot of people to pay attention to going around. Right, so take a look at that, and also whether Singapore will grow or will not grow. Can they actually solve the population issue in Singapore? Right, so again, their space is quite limited. One day you reach a stage whereby you just have no place to stand, right? Yes, Andrew.
Interesting. Yeah, and that thing you said about the South and also the Southeast. Interesting you point that out. I mean, 2021, it's a 5-year, numerologically speaking, and the 5 this year in the Flying Star system, the House of Calamity, that's in the Southeast, and the I've noticed that in a lot of the things regarding Feng Shui items to put around your house to generate wealth and abundance, I recently got some bamboo sticks to put, and also the dragon figurine, and also a horse figurine, and it all said put in the south or the southeast section of your house. So does this perhaps tie into anything that what you're talking about here?
Right, so now back to it. The southeast is basically the 5 yellow. The energy is basically of the earth signature. So if you're talking about the dragon figurine being asked to put there, the dragon better be of metal. Please don't put a plastic dragon there. That's not going to work, because the metal is going to drain the energy of the earth. And second thing, if you're talking about the bamboo, that is a little bit more dangerous, because wood actually counter the earth, right? So they are thinking of this particular theory of using wood to basically suppress the earth. But here's the thing, 5 yellow is a very temperamental energy. So if you go and trigger it by directly countering it, it can have a reverse effect, and the 5 yellow might whack you back. So I highly tell you not to put any wood in that place. If you want to put metal. Metal is the safest to basically drain the 5 yellow energy. But please make sure that your dragon is an actual metal dragon. Take a magnet and basically throw at the fella, see if it stick or not. All right. So if it's not, then it's not going to serve the purpose. If the entire thing is basically plastic, it's not going to work, right? So to tell you, the dragon doesn't actually do anything. It's the material that's matter. We normally ask people to just go to the gym and get the dumbbell weight plate, which is made out of metal. Get those. Those are the easiest, cheapest to buy.
Okay, and well, let's talk a little bit about metal now, because my Chinese calendar knowledge seems to be a little rusty here. We just finished the year of the metal rat, and now we're in the year of the metal ox, and next year I believe is the year of the metal tiger.
No,
A lot of
water.
it,
Here is water tiger.
water tiger.
Yep.
Okay, so it's not okay. That answers my question. It's not going to be 12 metal animals in a row. No, it's not. Okay, so that's not the way it is. Water tiger. All right, so I'm a fire tiger, so I may expect a little calamity there, but I'm sure I can work through it. But anyhow, this stuff about these last couple of years, this year and 2020, there seemed to be a lot more interest, interestingly, in people buying precious metals like gold and silver. And Well, I don't want to get anybody's hopes up to think we should get complacent, but if they're the word on the street is the reason DT is not the president of America right now is because the globalist bankers did not want the gold standard, and DT was planning to put America back on the gold standard in his second term, and that's why he took down the portraits of Clinton and one of the Bushes and replaced it with portraits of Teddy Roosevelt and William McKinley, who at the turn of the 19th going into the 20th century got America on the gold standard, which the bankers would have not wanted. They would have certainly preferred this unlimited silver coinage. And in those days, now it's gold and silver, not in the currency equation at all. But these last 2 years, however, there seems to be a lot of more distrust in currency and more faith in maybe the idea that our money should be precious metals like gold and silver. So this metal rat and metal ox, the fact that it's metal, does that tie into why there seems to be maybe a little bit more of a gold and silver rush fever going on now and has been?
Short answer to the very long question that you can actually make an entire episode out of. This is nothing to do with that, right? So now again, right? So the first thing that a lot of people need to basically understand right now is that when we're talking about the element, when we're talking about the metal, when we're talking about the water, when we're talking about the fire, the wood, and when we are talking, about the earth, it has actually nothing to do with those elements, right? So those elements came in because those elements contains characteristic of the energy signature that we are trying to explain. So when we talk about, let's say, the metal energy, we are talking about an energy signature that is very condensed and precise. So you want something that's condensed and precise. So when you talk about the currency right now, so a gold, when we talk about the value, is very condensed and precise. You cannot, you can't make a mistake on how much a gold should be worth, because you can weigh the gold, you can basically split it, and things like that. It's very precise. But when you talk about currency, right, so the problem is right now is that it is quite freely printed. I think you agree with that, right? A lot of government basically just print them. I think America print like trillions every single year, or every single month, and basically just print them. So there's actually very little in terms of actual value in the printed money, but it's a lot has to do with how people perceive the value to be in. So that is the dangerous portion of it. But the freedom of the hands at the place to be able to freely print money out, they love that, right? So if you go back to the precise system, right? So in actual sense that the people right now want precision, they actually want sureness. That's what they want, and they still see gold, silver as the standard of sureness and also precision. So that's why they move back into that. They just want to be sure. They just want to be precise. That's what they want. Whichever thing that allow them to have that, they will gravitate towards it. And traditionally or historically, gold, silver, precious metal has been doing that particular job really well in terms of giving a very precise evaluation on things. So we gravitate back to what we are familiar with, right? So that's the part of it, to take a look at. Cool.
Yes, and well, okay, even though I don't really want to dedicate this show to helping myself out, well, I mentioned that I could expect, being a fire tiger born in 1986, that the water tiger is going to have a few clashes because obviously water and fire don't mix, and obviously water trumps fire in almost every case. And well, also not only that, I've also heard that it's also more common than not that when you have your animal sign in the it is your year, the present year is your animal sign year, more often than not that year turns out to be more of a learning experience filled with a fair amount of hassles rather than a luxurious year where you get to sit back and relax and enjoy the year. It's not really a sit back and relax and enjoy the year kind of thing in your respective animal year. And if I would presume that if that's already the case, if it were a fire tiger year, it would already be kind of a little hard on me to make me learn and grow as a person. That I'm sure that a water tiger year for fire tigers like I is going to be even harder. So, but am I possibly mistaken on this? Am I drawing connections between unrelated things here? So, for all the different tigers out there, and this could apply to any animal, I guess. Whenever you're any animal and it's your year, but a different element, how are you supposed to handle it?
All right. So now when the same animal appear at the year, that is what we call a grand duke situation, right? So just now, we have talked about, the grand duke is basically the planet Jupiter. It's basically just telling you that, the Jupiter has gone back to the place whereby it is supposed to be, where the time that you were born, right? So, here's the thing, your energy signature actually spike up. Your energy signature actually spike up. You're gonna attract a high amount of attention to yourself. Now the question is, do you like being famous? Right. So now when we talk about do you like being famous, right? Sometimes that, oh, famous is basically quite good. You just imagine this particular situation. For that particular year, just imagine, right? You're gonna have paparazzi following you 24/7 every single day. They're going to give you that sort of attention every single day. They're going to have paparazzi following, or wherever you do, whatever you do, wherever that you are doing, right? So they're going to point the camera at you, and then they're going to record down every single thing that you do. Just imagine everyone around you is paying attention to you. So which means if you make any small little mistake, they're going to know that you have made a mistake, and they're going to remember your mistake. They're going to label you with the mistake that you are making. So under this sort of scrutiny type of situation, the olden day people would advise that person to, hey, try not to, do anything that is, too overly, be humble, try not to attract too much attention to yourself, because the belief is that you won't be able to handle this sort of scrutiny. Right now, it's the same thing, that is happening in a lot of, if you take a look at, a lot of influencer, they love to be famous, they like to be famous, but they only like the good part of it. When everybody is basically, hounding on them, they crack and then they broke. They can't take it, right? So that is the risk of next year for you if you take a look at it. And if you just put in the interaction, so fire and water right now. Actually, fire and water, in actual sense, right, just tell you that they are actually not in real clashing situation. They are actually not in real clashing situation. They are basically in a situation whereby is two big force is just trying to enhance each other. You just imagine the sun and the sea, right? Do they clash each other? They don't. The sun and the sea don't really clash each other. But if you are in a place whereby the sun and sea is basically at the same point, you can see that that particular area sometimes is not very, what you call, comfortable because of the intense reflection of heat that the surface of the water can create in conjunction with the sun. So actually next year, the question is that how well do you handle fame? How well do you handle attention? I think that is the portion that you need to be very careful. If you're a type of person, who like paparazzi following around, it's like, hey, I'm going to Costco right now, can you help me and, get the Costco people to basically get me a parking space, If you like doing this sort of thing, next year is going to be great. If let's say that your objective is actually to get notoriously famous next year, that would actually be a wonderful time for you to use that particular energy. But here's the thing. If you in the journey does do something that is wrong, the entire world would basically see that. Example I give people is that, if let's say that you have an objective that you promised to do and then you manage to achieve 95% of the objective. The unfortunate part is that everybody will remember the 5% that you did not achieve. They don't see the 95% that you achieve. They see that, oh, you fail your objective, even if it's 5% short. That sometimes is disheartening to a lot of people, that oh, you're not paying attention to the good thing that I'm doing. I'm paying attention to a bad thing. And you know how media like to point and twist things, right? So they want to report sensational stuff, and those fella are sometimes not really your friend. They just put you in a not a good light. So those are some of the things that you might want to just bear in mind when you step into next year. Is it an enjoyable year? Not an enjoyable year? Depend on what your perspective is. If you are expecting a year whereby it's peaceful, people don't really come and attack you, things like that, that could be a bit tough, because everybody is going to pay attention to you. So it's a super attention year for you next particular year. So get used to attention. Get used to fame. Get used to people. Always looking for something at you. If you can get used to all of those, next year can be quite enjoyable. Cool.
Yes, interesting. You mentioned attention. I often bitch and moan about humans having lousy attention spans, which is one reason my show doesn't generate as big an audience as it could be, because I do 2-hour shows and humans have lousy attention spans. And well, it's a shame, because if they didn't have lousy attention spans, my show would be a lot more popular. I'm sure. You have no idea how many times people have messaged me and such saying, I can't understand why your show doesn't have like 50,000 at least subscribers to it. But maybe based on what you're saying, that may change a little bit. I'm trying to do a lot of rituals and such to make the most of it. And with that being said, because the Chinese calendar has lunar qualities to it, one would think that it would be very healthy to get in sync with the moon cycles and do rituals around the lunar cycles. I've read in some source that as a tiger, it is good to do rituals around the full moon and also the cycle that comes right before the new moon. I believe that's waning crescent. Yeah, that's good for tigers anyway. But I did print out some from numerologist.com, some a new moon and a full moon ritual thing, and since the pandemic has started, I've never missed a new moon and a full moon ritual. So, from a standpoint of Chinese metaphysics, when you're working with the moon more and trying to work with the lunar cycles, can you be sure that that means that your life will go more smoothly and things will happen in a more metaphysically peaceful and flowing manner?
Well, I think back to the I think the initial discussion is that astrologer, for those of us who practice all of this, right? So the sun cycle is the more important cycle than the moon cycle. So a lot of us actually don't really care too much on the moon cycle. So whatever the moon does, we can do it. So because we are recognizing energy signature, the sun is a much more bigger energy signature than the moon, right? So some believe that the moon is closer, so that it exert a better energy signature. But for most of us, we say that the sun basically have a more bigger influence. So that's why a lot of time for us, we use the solar calendar rather than the lunar calendar to do, right? So, back to your question, whether, you perform ritual or not perform ritual, whatever it is, now, to me personally, whichever rocks, so, now to me, whether you perform ritual, don't perform ritual, right? The more important part of it is that, are you taking the necessary action? I've seen a lot of people who make wishes, perform ritual, but then, here's the thing, they don't do anything after that. They basically make a wish, to whatever that they believe in, oh, hey, whoever it is, please help me in, whatever it is. Then after that, what they do, they sit around and wait for things to happen. Hey, hello, nothing will happen. Right? So everything that you basically do need to basically come in together with an actual action. Right? So when you have an actual action and then you couple with the energy, right? So that makes the entire thing smoother when you are actually performing the task. That's the crux of it. A lot of people lack action. They don't implement. Right? They sit around, they discuss, they talk about it. They want this, they want that. But when it comes to actually getting things done, you don't see them doing the thing that they need to be done. So that's why A lot of time, they say that, hey, this doesn't work. It doesn't work because you are not doing anything at all. You're just sitting around, waiting for, things to happen. Cool, right?
Yes. Okay. Let's talk about the Bazi chart now. I don't think I mentioned the word Bazi one single time in this entire interview, interestingly, and we've got about 20 minutes left. So let's maybe try to focus on this. If someone were to want to make a Bazi chart for them, why don't you explain to them where they'd have to go to do that? And once they make a Bazi chart by entering their name and their date of birth and whatever else needs to be entered, and I've got my own one right next to me on the computer here. What are they going to see when they? Because it's a complicated thing. I'm sure a lot of Americans, because the Chinese are kicking Americans' butt and everything, would be all confused and don't know what the hell they're looking at when they look at a Bazi chart. So I know it's only about 20 minutes left. So why, to the best of your ability, anyway, on the fly in a good abridged manner, what if a Bazi chart? If when someone types in the info, what are they seeing? What are they looking at? What are they going to try to make sense of what they're looking at? To the best of your ability, please.
All right. So, first of all, let's dissect a bit on the word, Bazi, right? So now Bazi is basically in Chinese mean 8 character. Ba mean 8, Zi mean character, right? So now go back to the very traditional one. When we express a person date in a solar calendar term, we use the 60 pillar. So one pillar is basically 2 component, top heavenly stem and bottom earthly branches. So that's basically one component. And when you translate the year, the month, the day, and the hour, you get 4 pillar, which turns into 8 character inside the system, right? So we are just basically translating your English date or your Gregorian date into a solar calendar term. That's all. That's all we are basically doing. So, if you take a look at it now, the complicated part is basically extracting the interaction between the different element inside your chart. They are basically interact with each other to make sense of the interaction based on what you want to understand about your particular chart, right? So the extended version, which is the one that when you go to joeyap.com, right? So to basically plot your own Bazi chart, right? So we have extended a lot of the interpretative information into the Bazi chart, and we have actually done a energy or elemental summary at the bottom, which we call it the structure and also the profile. Those are basically telling you, what are the elemental energy that is the most prominent or the least prominent inside your chart. So those are the stuff that we are basically reading. So the big piece of 2-pager that you are having right now is basically just summary of information that most practitioner would need to, in the olden day, manually extract it out of the system. So I always tell people, a lot of people in the olden day, they refuse to learn this or they give up in learning this, is that you require quite a large brain database to be able to plot the chart in full. Not easy, right? So you need to remember a lot of interaction and theory for you to do that. But of course, today with the help of software, it has become very easy, just a 2-second thing. You just go to joeyap.com and, go and print your Bazi chart. You have all the information, available already plotted for you. So the next step is to basically find, what does this information means? What does this information means to me? When this information appear in this place, what does that particular means to me? And the last part of it is basically to add in, if I were to do certain things right now, does this energy help me at this current time to get it done? Or do I wait a little while for the energy to basically go into a phase whereby it is more assistive to me to get this particular done? Or, you take a look at it. So, if now the current energy is supporting this particular activity, should I shift my objective to first do this particular activity first, later I go and do the activity that I need to do, right? So those are some, decision that we use when we take a look at your Bazi chart. We will try to, have a discussion with you, and definitely we want to find out, what are the things that you are willing to go, how far you are willing to go to, get things done. So that in essence is what Bazi is just using your birth date changing it to the solar term, and we try to take a look at what is the interaction between the 8 boxes, and depending on what you want to achieve, we basically can tell you whether the energy signature at that point in time is in a supportive mode of that particular activity or not. If it's not, you got 2 choices. One is basically to switch your activity, right? So go and do something that basically is in supportive. Or second thing is to delay your current activity to an area, to a time whereby the energy is more supportive. Cool?
Yes, that is cool. And all right, switching gears, time for another subject of sorts. There was a little mini documentary I saw on one of the YouTube channels I subscribe to, the Zohar Ancient Discoveries channel, I think it may have been, talking about how the pyramids that you never hear about in the world. You always hear about pyramids in Egypt and maybe some of the pyramids in Central America, but the pyramids of China, you don't really hear about them as much, although there have been some Ancient Aliens episodes that have aired and talked about those pyramids in China, and that people thought they were hills, but they're actually man-made constructed pyramids, and pyramids are very, very popular in some parts of the world for metaphysical purposes. I actually wear a pyramid on my head, one of Rob Potter's of thepromiserevealed.com's silver plated pyramids I wear on my head whenever I'm home by myself just doing research and spiritual work. It looks silly, some people would say, but I believe it's helping me and keeping my brain fresh, having that thing in there, my brain in a pyramid. And people meditate in pyramids a lot. And I put a quartz crystal pyramid in my refrigerator, and it seems ever since I've done that, I believe the food has lasted longer. And I even put my vitamins inside Rob Potter's other 2 pyramids, the copper and the gold one that I don't wear as often. So the idea of using pyramids to enhance metaphysics, I'm sure the Chinese knew about that because there were a lot of pyramids in China. Do you have anything to say about pyramid work?
I think in terms of that, pagoda is actually more common than pyramids.
What is more common?
Pagoda, pagoda,
Pagoda. Okay.
pagoda. Yeah, no, that is actually more common in terms of that, right? So um, I don't know. The belief is that they try to get as close to the sky or as close to the star as possible, and they believe that the closer you are to the sky, the more purer the connection might be, right? So now, to me, whether it is a pyramid, whether it is a pagoda structure, whatever it is, so here's the thing, if the star, no, the funny thing is that going back a little bit in terms of feng shui side of it, right? So they believe that the mountain, the creation of the mountain, is basically in sync with the appearance of certain stars on the sky. So over the millennia, over the times sphere, when the star always basically appear in that, it actually incept energy onto the planet, and the place whereby the energy is more incepted create mountain. Mountain basically are a energy source storing mechanism. So if you take a look at that, right? So if they believe in that particular, a way of things happening, mountain form because energy level is stored there. I think it's very easy for them to now conclude that if I build a structure that look like a mountain in a certain space, the chances of that particular structure storing energy, as in a battery storing energy, is basically there, right? So I think that is what they want to emulate when you're talking about a pyramid. So that's my personal belief, because I don't really do a lot of research in terms of whether pyramid or no pyramid, pagoda or no pagoda, right? So that's not something that I spend too much time looking at.
All right. And I guess to finish out this interview, I'd like to maybe get into what you and your colleagues in the Joey App group have found regarding the future of humanity and what's in store and what the Chinese metaphysics and maybe some other area disciplines say about what could be in store for humanity. Um, there's a couple of things to point out. I did mention at the beginning of this program that when I hear people say that China is going to become a bigger superpower than America. I don't look at that as China turning into the Roman Empire of the modern era that America was, but I see that more as people realizing that um, Chinese metaphysics and how the nature of reality works in conjunction with the disciplines of Chinese schools of thought and mystery schools and such is definitely more accurate and more getting to the grain of the truth than Western stuff is. And in order for that to spread around the world better, you would think that while one side rises, another part has to fall. And well, there does seem to be some evidence, astrologically speaking, anyway, regarding the fall of the Roman Empire of the modern era that is the United States of America. That what's going on right now in America is obviously theater of the highest degree that can almost wake up anybody who's asleep. And the word on the street anyway from some sources, I'm not really going to name any names here, but like there's going to be a military takeover of America. There are crazy new things happening in April. Bo Pony in his charts say like April 23rd to 25th, sort of a Red Sea moment, he says, or something. And these next few years is going to be like another American Revolution. Well, it's like American Civil War now, but it's going to turn into a second American Revolution, and it's going to the end of the Roman Empire, the modern era that is the United States of America, is going to, I guess, climax or not necessarily, or maybe end. I don't know if climax or end is the proper word, but on April 8th, 2024, and there's going to be an eclipse that day, a lunar eclipse that crisscrosses the United States of America from the southwest to the northeast, and Carbondale, Illinois, is the crisscross point of that eclipse and the one that happened in August 2017. And there was some American Revolution type history regarding eclipses going across America that suggests that there is going to be another American Revolution of sorts. And like I said, if the fall of one empire can lead to the rise of another, and the other being China and all its metaphysical beliefs and how to live in harmony with nature, which is a good thing. I don't see why we wouldn't want that. Does that actually resonate with what you and your colleagues see for the future of humanity?
Well, now if you take a look at the particular situation, right? So now this one tie very closely with the onset of the period 9, right? So now the period 9, we always associate that with basically on fire. And here's the thing: authoritarian, or what we call rules and regulation, are basically associated with metal. So just now we talk about metal being precise, metal being measurable, right? So when we talk about rules, regulation are basically a very precise, very measurable type of thing. So fire counters attack metal, right? So it is basically what we call expected that the way that the rules and regulation is basically running right now need to be changed. This is actually not the entire idea of collapsing rules and regulation. It just required it to be changed, which means that the fire melting the metal, the signal is that the metal doesn't go away. The metal get reshaped into something new, into something more functional. You can just take a look at it. If you're going to melt a salt and then make it into an axe, that's just a process of melting and reshaping everything, right? So now the question is again, familiarity point of view, what are the new thing that is going to be shaped by this particular transformation, right? Now something would bound to come out, so the thing that I think everybody of us need to pay attention to is that this is the only planet that we are stuck onto until Mr. Allen, right? So can bring us to Mars. That one is also not very useful for going to Mars, right? So we have to live with each other. That's not actually a choice, right? So last time there's still borders. Right now there are no new place for you to discover. There are no new border. This is the planet is the planet, right? So I think it's a good time that we'll take a look whether the power shift from east to the west or the west shifting to the east. Now to me, my personal belief is that I think the power is basically gonna more shift towards a true global type of powerhouse right now. As in, country become less important. As you can see right now, right? is border country right now is important with the onset of the internet. You can do business all over the places. Money are basically flowing all over the places. The controlling mechanism that was put in by the olden day people are all collapsing. So control seems to be harder. But a new form of control will definitely be formed out, as in how the fire melt the metal and the metal basically will reshape into something new. I think we are in a good time to basically take a look at what are the new future that's going to be shaped in, right? So safe to say, whatever old theory that we have about, I don't know, who are going to be the superpower, is this going to be that, going to be, those are, still very, very old right now. Now, who knows, just for the joke purpose, tomorrow, that, there's going to be an alien fleet hovering around our planet attacking us, like how Independent Day, the movie is, then we all, band together and basically, go and attack them. And now we have a new enemy, right? I don't know, right? So a lot of stuff that can basically happen. But definitely laws and order is going to be deconstructed and it's going to be reconstructed into something newer. I think for us is that, accept it, we have gone through so much in the history of our life that we have gone through so many changes. We survived every single one of them. So, no need to doomsday on these particular changes that's basically coming. Just embrace it, right? Just embrace it. And then, you survive, we'll survive, don't worry about it. It's just going to be a new world, new rule, new game, just play the new game. That's it.
Yes, and I do hope for the best as well. So we've almost reached the 2 hour mark. I guess I might as well bring this interview to a close now. But I'd like to give you the chance now in these last couple minutes here to get out anything you'd like to get out. And please do a plug and even a sales pitch if you want to make a sales pitch out for the Joey Yap group and all your pals there and so people can gain the great knowledge and wisdom that they can gain from this area of study that I see as being very pertinent in what a lot of people are going to be researching in the future. So why don't you close us out here, Kevin, and you have the floor to close.
Thank you very much, Andrew, for giving us this opportunity to have a voice in your channel there, and of course, for those of you who do want to do a little bit more of a research, and then you want to start off with some form of a foundation here, we have actually prepared quite a lot of information for you all. For those of you who are interested, you can go to www.joeyup.com. /2021. We actually have a link there for you to download a lot of information that we have prepared for you. So that would serve as a very good foundation level for you if you want to understand a lot about Chinese metaphysics, whether it is Bazi, whether it is Feng Shui. So those has already been prepared for you. Just go to www.joeyup.com 2021, right? So and download a copy of those information for yourself. And that will basically help you to kickstart or clear out, further enhance the knowledge that you basically have on the entire area of Chinese metaphysics, right? So Andrew, back to you, Andrew.
Yes, thank you very much. It was a pleasure having you on. Some new knowledge here. I learned a few new things myself, and I will upload this to YouTube before the end of the weekend, and it's going to be available for everybody 2 weeks from now. But I will post the link on my Patreon page for those that wish to pay me on Patreon to be able to listen to this. And of course, you were recording at your end. I did not see a message here when I had to call you the second time to see if you were.
And just want to update. You can basically cut this out. I think the what you call a Skype, if I click on record, your side will cut off. If you click on it, my side will cut off.
Okay. So, well, I know that I was recording both the parts, including the first part that I had to.
So, my office might need you to send a copy of your recording to them. Right, that's all.
All right, that's fine. I will do that if that be the case. So,
Thanks.
Take care. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thanks.